Oh, you don't know how good it is to be back. I almost wasn't. I'm Richard Bey. This is Richard Bey Talk with my producer, Albert Reinoso. And I had to drive up to Sarasota for a theater audition. On the way back, I mean, I had a crack in my rim, so the tire was going flat. So I changed it, and with the donut. You're not supposed to go more than 70 miles on a donut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to go more than 50 miles an hour. So I took one of the back roads to get back to South Florida, and I'm on the phone with Albert Reinoso, and I'm telling him, "Hey, it's held up so far. I've gone about 100 miles so far, and everything's okay." And the minute we hang up, I hear bubba 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 bubba, and there I am. Because this is a back road, it's a 2-lane highway with traffic going in both directions. I pull over. There's not even a shoulder, a concrete shoulder. There's only grass that slopes downward into a ravine, and no towns. I hadn't seen a town in maybe 40 miles. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I called Albert, and you said, "Well,
I'm the first guy you called. That's just wrong."
I know. So anyway, I do have Geico roadside assistance. So I call Geico roadside assistance, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll have somebody out there, and they'll give you a tow. But we're only responsible for towing you to the Audi dealership that's closest to where you are now." So I wait and I wait and I wait, and about 40 minutes later, she calls me back and she says, "We have no tow truck contracts with anybody in the area where you are. Can we see where that car is now? Take a look at this." This is the other one. Okay, this one too. You can see where I'm located there. There's nothing there. That's the map. And there's nothing there for miles. Can we see the video of the car? No, the video of the car. Video of the car. We'll get to that. There we go. There I am. And you can see there's no shoulder really. I'm just stuck there on the side of the road, tilted at this angle. So Geico says, "Oh, you're on your own." So I start, doing the Google, and I call people, and nothing is close. Everybody, "Oh, we are tow trucks in Orlando. Oh, we don't send them out on a Friday night. Oh, we can't do this. We don't have anybody." So I finally reached this one guy, and I could hear like a baby girl talking to him in the background, back and forth. He was very loving to his child, and he said, okay, that he would come out. But I was getting a tow for 120 miles at $6 an hour. So it came out to $700. So when he eventually showed up, he told me it took him 45 minutes to drive there. And if he had known that, he would have charged more. But he didn't.
You said $6 an hour. You mean $6 a mile?
$6 a mile. Okay. Yeah. $6 a mile. Thank you. I don't know. $6 an hour would have been a bargain. $6 a mile. So he gets out, and you have to hook this contraption under the car to lift it up and put wheels under it. And I'm in the grass, and we're at a tilt, so it's very difficult to do. It took him maybe an hour to disengage it, put it back together. And every time I stood in this grass, I had hundreds of ants crawling up my legs, into my socks, into my shoes. I mean, it was like a science fiction monster thing. And he was down on the grass, and he was getting bitten and eaten up and tickled by ants, and would get up and he'd stomp his feet on the concrete. I mean, the guy went through hell, but eventually we got it up, and we drove the car. And I have to tell you, this was the blessing part of it. We had a conversation for 2 hours where he asked me what I did for a living, and I started talking, and I asked him about his family. He had 4 kids, 3 boys and a little girl, and he was talking about his wife and their relationship. And then we started talking about sex, and we started talking about life, and we started talking about what we had done. And at one point he said, And then his wife called, and they had such a respectful, loving relationship. You could just hear it over the phone, telling each other how much they loved each other. And the 4 kids were there, and he had the blues book in the car for the little girl, and he was just a great guy. And, every once in a while, you meet somebody, a stranger, and they just impress you with what a good person they are. So at one point, though, as I was regaling him with my stories of my past, as I'm wont to do, he said, "I should have had your life." And I said, "How can you say that? You have 4 children that you love. They're going to last longer than you, and you're going to have grandchildren. And you have a person that's with you, a wife that you love and respect, and she supports you." I said, "Look at me. I'm almost 72 years old, and I'm all by myself living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Florida." So I said, he said, "But everything that you've done," yes, I did a lot of stuff, but you did things that were important. And it was just a fabulous conversation. And when we got out of the tow truck after 120 miles, $700, I gave him $100 tip. The next day was his birthday, and he was taking the family to the beach. So I said, "Here, take them when you go to the beach tomorrow with your family, treat them to something nice." So all in all, it was like $800, but I didn't know what I was going to do out there in the middle of nowhere. And Patrick, here, we can see his picture now. There he is. What a great guy. And you have a great life. And you know what? You shouldn't have had my life. You should have the life that you have. And another thing that I failed to mention was that as adverse as the conditions were with the ants and the slant and trying to get this thing adjusted, he never griped. He never showed a bit of anger or resentment. He just did the frickin' job. And that's another reason why I respect him. He finished the job. He could have driven out and said, "Listen, it's 45 minutes that I drove here, Um, you know, I can't deal with this. Look at where you're at." But he didn't. And Patrick, I thank you for all that. Okay, then we're going to get to politics. And of course, there's so much going on. I just picked 2 of the topics. One is that it was that decision about the abortion pill that took place with a judge in Texas. Do you remember that after they overturned Roe versus Wade, there were all the commentators, and even I think Alito said this will take some of the fire out of the division and the debate. States will be able to make their own decisions about whether abortion is legal or not. And so there will be no more of this angry division in this country about it. Those states that want abortion to be legal will have it, and those that don't. Ha, ha, ha. Because it didn't end there, and it won't end there. I mean, these people, the other side, will not be happy. You got to look at the macro of this until they control everything. The courts, the legislatures, the presidency, they will, the elections, as we saw with Trump and the conspiracy to get phony electors to come in. They will do anything. So wake the hell up. This is a wide-ranging conspiracy. So Trump nominated 200 conservative justices, among them this guy, Matthew Kacsmaryk, who was in Amarillo, Texas. Now, this is what they did. This seems so ridiculous. This group that was in Tennessee, right after Roe versus Wade, like 2 months later, they went to Amarillo, Texas, and they incorporated something they called the Alliance for the Hippocratic Medicine. And that was right after the Dobbs decision. And then they filed a lawsuit, knowing that there's only one judge in the whole area of Amarillo, and this judge is a right-wing fundamentalist Christian who has been a lawyer for those kinds of groups, is extremely anti-abortion, radically anti-abortion. So it's something that they call judge shopping. But the whole thing was a setup. So they had these doctors who were saying that they had standing Now, how do they have standing in a case in Amarillo, Texas, when they come from a place far away? Or what, how does, in order to have standing, you have to show that there's some sort of hurt, whether it's uh, um, your reputation, um, whether it's monetary. So none of these doctors in this group, these fundamentalist doctors, none of them had ever used this drug. None of them had ever touched it. None of them had ever ordered it. So how do they have standing? None of them had ever given it to a patient. It's been out there for 20 years. None of them had ever given it to a patient who had adverse side effects. But what they were saying is the drug will cause so many adverse side effects that the emergency rooms will be overloaded with people and we won't be able to give emergency room care. And that was their standing. This should never have even gone to trial. I mean, this drug has been out there for 20 years, and emergency rooms, well, yeah, they were packed during COVID, but they're not packed with people who've taken, I can't even pronounce the thing. What is it? Mifepristone or something like that. So, I mean, it was just bullshit. And of course, the judge came out and then, tried to justify his decision that you could not mail this drug because it was used in abortion. And he referred to a law that was created when Ulysses S. Grant was president. It's called the Comstock Law, and it was an anti-vice crusader who created this law. And it said you couldn't send contraceptives through the mail, and you couldn't send anything that was lewd and lascivious through the mail. Of course, some of those things were thrown out. Contraceptives were thrown out when the Supreme Court decided a case in Connecticut. And what is lewd and lascivious to people in the 1870s today is like, it's everywhere. It's on television, it's on the internet, it's in the radio. So anyway, he referred to this Comstock law that said you couldn't use anything that would be applicable to an abortion through the mail. Here's their next step. The anti-abortionists are arguing now every single abortion in the United States, surgical or medical, requires something that comes in the mail. Abortion providers don't create their own medical devices. They don't make a forceps. Oh my God, how could you send that through the mail? Surgical instruments that are used in an abortion, they don't make their own drugs. So they'd have to send it through the mail. They get them from medical device manufacturers and pharmaceutical distributors. So that's their next step. They weren't happy with overturning Roe versus Wade. The next step is to ban it everywhere in the country. Now, it's almost just crazy here, the lengths that they go to. All right, they won their Roe versus Wade. But here in Florida, of course, we just have the new 6-week abortion ban. A woman doesn't even know she's pregnant until the 4th week. And then there are so many obstacles placed in front of her that she has 2 weeks to get 2 different doctors to say something and run out. And I mean, it's just crazy. So what the Supreme Court said would simplify the national debate over abortion has complicated it to no end, Judge Alito. All right. So, and the next thing that is ridiculous that we're facing here is the fact that after 2 weeks of mass shootings across the country, getting a lot of attention, the NRA holds its convention, and has Pence speak and Trump speak, and I think DeSantis is speaking there. And DeSantis just passed the law here that everybody can carry a gun in public concealed without a background check, without without taking any kind of special training to understand how to use a gun while you're carrying it. So people are, when you go out, you just have to assume that everybody has a gun. Now they say, well, the only people who will use the gun are those who have a mental illness. And that's bullshit too. Now, I read the local paper, Palm Beach Post, all the time. So just over the course of the last few months, I read of a guy who went up to another guy's girlfriend and offered to buy her a drink. The guy got offended. They stepped outside. He took a gun. He shot him. I read of a 54-year-old guy who was with his 18-year-old girlfriend in the same hotel. It's a ritzy hotel called the Sands, and they were playing that they were shooting at each other. So he took out his real gun and pointed it at her, and he says accidentally he shot and he killed her. Then there was the two guys who were in road rage, and one guy cut off another guy, and he was mad, so he sped up and he fired into his car. He hit his 12-year-old daughter with a bullet. Then there was, and this was a while back, then there was the guy in the movie theater who wouldn't turn off his cell phone during the trailers. And behind him was a retired a police officer who told him to do that. And the guy, he took a handful of popcorn and he threw it at the police officer, at the retired police. He pulled out his gun and blew his brains out right in front of his wife. The other one was a bunch of kids in a van are playing rap music and they're playing it loud. The guy tells them to turn it down. They give him the finger. He pulls out his gun and he shoots them. So this isn't just about mental illness. And we're not talking about getting anger management for every person. We're talking about a proliferation of guns everywhere. There was one chief here who said, oh, you can't pass any laws because they had just had a shooting where he was. And you can't pass laws because they'll always find a way to get the guns. And then he asked another officer, how did these kids get the guns? Well, they broke into cars and they stole the guns. Well, yeah, you could pass a law. You could pass a law that when you leave your car, you lock up your gun. You lock it up in a place that's not accessible to kids who smash windows and grab a gun. It's just crazy. After the rise in gun crime, and here's another thing that I found out is that, in New York, gun deaths are 5 per 100,000. In Florida, they're over 13 per 100,000. Gun deaths are almost 3 times what they are in New York, and frickin' Jim Jeffords, whatever his name is, was the guy with the rolled up sleeves. You know who he is, right? They're holding a congressional investigation now about crime in New York. Florida has 3 times the gun deaths as New York, and nobody knows that. So they hold this big NRA convention, and it's their version of Disneyland because the kids are all over the place. Let's take a look at that kid. I was taught when I went to a gun range several times, never point a gun at anybody, even if it's unloaded, unless you mean to lose it. Somebody didn't tell this kid that at the NRA convention. Let's have the next shot. Oh, and look, it's so pretty. Look at this thing. You talk about grooming kids. The drag queens aren't grooming kids to grow up and be drag queens. These people are grooming kids to grow up and get angry and shoot somebody. Let's go to the next shot. Do we have that? Oh, look at this one. I want to have this one. I wonder if it comes in pink for the little girl. And then there was Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, who said this in her speech. Take a look at this.
Miss Addie, who is almost 2, and Branch, who's just a few months old, they have brought us so much joy. They brought us purpose. Now, Addie, who, soon will need them, I want to reassure you, she already has a shotgun and she already has a rifle. And she's got a little pony named Sparkles, too, so the girl is set up.
Oh, that's supposed to reassure me that your 2-year-old daughter has a rifle. Yeah. And a gun and a rifle. Oh, that's reassuring. All right. Well, when I was on the radio, I was paired with an extreme right-wing radio host. And the topic was of child safety locks. There was a time when we talked about having safer guns with a child safety lock so they couldn't open it, kids with guns that would read your fingerprints so only you could use them. And my co-host said, "Hey, I don't want a finger lock on it because I don't want to take the extra second to turn the finger lock off, the kid safety lock." He said, "I have my gun right in my dresser next to my bed." And I said, "Steve, you have a 9-year-old son. Do you think that's a good idea? And it's loaded too." And I said, "Do you think that's a good idea, Steve?" And he said, "Well, I spoke to him and I told him to have respect for guns." And I said, "Yeah, 9-year-olds always listen to everything their parents tell them." So he said, "All right, maybe I'll put it on top of the dresser. It's too high for him." I said, "Yeah, because a chimpanzee can figure out how to put a box which he can climb on to reach a banana, but a 9-year-old kid can't figure that out." Anyway, there have been several instances recently that I came across where kids had guns. Maybe you saw this video of a 4-year-old walking around the hallways of his apartment complex.
Video shocking all of America. A little boy in a diaper wandering around the hallway of his family's apartment building wielding a gun. And that's no toy gun. Authorities say it's for real. You can even hear clicks as he pulls the trigger. A security camera captured the terrifying episode outside Indianapolis. Neighbors called cops to report a child with a gun.
He was up the stairs, and that was when he looked down and pointed it at me and said something like, "Look what I got, ha ha."
Ha ha, real big joke. Well, good thing that gun wasn't loaded. But there was another gun that was loaded when a 4-year-old in a car shot at the police when they tried to get him out of the car. They had just arrested his dad, but his dad left the gun in the car. And the kid grabbed the gun. I believe the cop was not injured badly. It was just a graze. But this is a 4-year-old carrying a gun. Watch this.
Oh! Got the... We're gonna crack the window if you don't open the door.
On your phone. On your phone. With your right hand, open the door.
Open the door now!
With the right hand, open the door. Open the door.
Now!
Open your door. Come on out. Come on out. Hold on. I got my...
Hold Step out! Step out!
Get out of the car.
Down!
Gun!
Get your arm out!
Get your arm out.
Get your arm out now! Go!
Drop the gun! Shut up! Kids! John is holding.
You alright, kid? It's alright. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Come on. It's okay. Come on. Come on. It's okay.
All right, listen, when you have so many guns, we have more guns in this country than we have people. And when you have so many guns, you're going to have more incidents, well, like that and like others, where people just get pissed off. Now in Florida, forget it. So we have almost 14 gun deaths per 100,000. Look for that number to climb up because people get angry. And when they have a gun, it turns very dangerous. Now, to distract us from all of this, there's a new controversy that Fox is talking about, which has to do with a trans person named Dylan Mulvaney, who has a deal with Budweiser to endorse their product on Instagram. And can we take a picture of her? There she is with Bud Light. So now it started with Fox News constantly talking about this. Every news article from Fox News has to do with the fact that there's a trans person and Bud Light, and the country singing stars are boycotting, and Kid Rock got a rifle and started shooting up Bud Light before a picture appeared of him drinking a Bud Light with a drag queen. I tell you can't make these things up. But anyway, this is what's causing the controversy. And across the country, Fox viewers and, other haters are boycotting Bud Light. Now, a few years ago, I was working at a place called Uber TV. And at that time, there was a national boycott of Pepsi Cola because they had supported the gay community. And there were fundamentalist churches and news articles calling for a boycott of Pepsi because it was supportive of the gay community. And I just grabbed my Bible, and Reverend Billy Bey joined the crusade. Take a look at this.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for joining Reverend Billy Bey once again as we talk about these. You have the music there, yes. As we have these issues to discuss here today in American politics. Once again, yes, I know that my conservative brethren want to change the words of the Bible, but I have to tell them there is something even more insidious. Did you ever go to a hotel and open one of the drawers? They give you a free Bible. Talk about socialism. They're giving something away for free. You don't have to pay. This is God's word, and they're giving it away for free. In fact, if we're going to change the words that are in here, we might as well change the name itself. I think we should call it the Bible. In order to get this, you have to buy it. B-U-Y. No free Bibles from the Gideonist Society. None of that socialist hippie garbage here. Read the word. No, you won't value it unless you pay for it. But a bigger scandal today is this, late brothers and sisters. Pepsi Cola is part of the gay agenda and the gay conspiracy to turn all Americans gay. If you don't believe me, watch this Pepsi commercial and be warned, brothers and sisters.
Go on, mate. You're definitely getting checked out.
I am.
Come on, now's your chance.
I guess it's now or never.
Exactly. What could go wrong? Here, have a Pepsi Max.
Right. Let's do this.
Unbelievable! Brazen, right in your face, they're telling you, drink a Pepsi Cola and you'll ignore those beautiful sluts at the bar and go right down there to the gay man in his t-shirt. What more proof do you need? Can we see that next picture, please? Yes, the Lord himself has given his endorsement to Coca-Cola over Pepsi. Enjoy, thou shalt not thirst. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and the logo, look at this. The logo for Pepsi, the next one. There you go. And doesn't that logo look suspiciously like Obama's gay campaign logo? Pepsi gay, Coke straight. Boycott. Boycott that evil drink of Satan. And if you need any more proof, That Pepsi Cola. Did you ever go to the movie theater, brothers and sisters, and see Jimmy Fallon's commercial for Pepsi where he's humping the street? You never saw that with that song?
How does it go? Show us.
Well, here, take a look at this. If you want to know that if Pepsi conclusively can turn you into a homosexual, as they say in France, watch this commercial. Watch. Look at them celebrating their perversity. It's openly on the streets. Look at him.
Oh, wow.
Look at him with that big pole. Oh, he went down for a sip, and not of his Pepsi. If you prefer the Pepsi, perhaps you are gay. If you prefer Coca-Cola, then you are a real heterosexual. Let's see if the beautiful Jessica Tallarico is a latent daughter of Sappho. Let's see if she goes home at night and puts Rosie O'Donnell posters up in her bedroom. Let's see if she sits in front of Ellen and starts massaging her thighs. Let's see if she is actually a heterosexual or a lesbiano. That's an Italian lesbian.
I am Italian, so
Yes, do you prefer...
I'm nervous to take this test.
Do you prefer the sardine or the sausage?
I hate sardines.
All right, there you go. The first one. Which one? Which one do you prefer? There you go.
Oh, I know what that is.
You do?
Yeah.
You can really tell the difference. Which one do you prefer? The
They're
first?
both the same.
You're
They're
a
both
bisexual.
They're both.
You like both of them. You like the sardine and the sausage.
They really do taste the
Please, you little putano.
Wait, can you please look at the bottom? I think they're both the same. They're both Pepsi. I was being fooled. I knew it.
Well, anyway, I thought it was pretty funny. All of that was improv, and Jessica, who was my co-host on that show, she was just wonderful to work with. And she's now married, and I think she has a little baby. So she passed the Pepsi test. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I wish you all the best, and please share this podcast if you enjoyed it and let people know. And from all of us here to you out there, all our best. Take care.